Welcome. It is good to see everyone. I am so grateful to be here. It has been far too long. Um, Let me know just so that I feel comfortable. Let me know if the audio is coming through good and crisp and clean. I want to make sure things are set up well. I hope that you have something good to drink. I've got a cortado, and if you don't know what a cortado is, well, I'm a little bit of a coffee. They say connoisseur, but maybe it's a coffee snob. At any rate, um, this was a drink that was made by coffee baristas for coffee baristas. Because if you are a coffee drinker, you know that if you like lattes or even some of the like Americano or macchiatos or besides just drinking it black, you can always drink like shots of espresso. This is actually what's called a 1-to-1. So it's a single shot or a double shot espresso with steamed milk. And it's delicious and it's not too much. Like it's not too much extra fluff. So, anyways, that's that. All right. Well, let's jump in. It has been, like I said, far too long. Yes, listen, I appreciate you saying that actually, Sanja, because if y'all don't know, my family lives in Northwest Arkansas, which is kind of the home of Walmart. And because of that, we have an excellent coffee shop. The name is Onyx Coffee Lab. And Onyx was rated this last year number 2 in the entire world by CNN, which is incredible. So they are an incredible coffee shop. You can get obviously all of their coffee online. You can have it ordered and sent your direction. So, anyways, that was not a sponsorship for Onyx, but you should go check them out. Onyx Coffee Lab. All right. Normally, what I do is I will share a book, normally a physical book. I am so excited to see, let's see, Chris, to see you mention that you've got Beal's book. I am so excited to see that. I love that you picked it up. So awesome job on that. We will be going through Beal today. We'll be going through David Allen as we normally do. If we get to it, we're going to touch on a commentary that I'd be surprised if some of you were in. You may. I hope you have. Okay. This is the Hermania commentary series, and they actually have a segment on First Enoch written by George Nicholsberg, who's kind of the king of Enochian commentary. If we get to it, that will be one thing. And then the last thing that we'll be going through today, which you could pick this book up. I actually have it on a platform called Everrand or Scribd, if you're familiar with that. But this one is a book by Justin Bass. And it is called, it's actually was like his PhD work, his dissertation. And so I am going to share this as kind of the book. But just know that there's lots of good books. This is just one that I'm going to share with you. Let me see if I can get this up on the screen for you and see how it works today. It's Battle for the Keys, Revelation 1:8, and Christ's descent into the underworld. Fabulous book. Probably I have taken classes from Justin Bass. Of all the things that I've engaged with him, I'll actually make it a little easier for you all to see that particular one. But of all of the things I've engaged with him, even his classes, I would say this book is probably one of the most exciting books that he's got. It's kind of his major dissertation work. And if you like light reading, well, you're not going to find it with this one. So So again, you might be able to find. I don't know if you can buy it on Amazon or not. I don't even know what it costs. I will tell you that if you haven't yet subscribed to a platform called Scribd, I believe it is SCRIBD.com, Scribd. You can, it's a monthly subscription, but you can get a ton of good resources there. I've actually found lots of documents that I've used for my own personal research. People upload PDFs. They will put books on there as well as regular audiobooks, things of that nature. So for the price, it's an exceptional deal. That's actually where I found, I'll share my screen here just so you can see it. That's actually where I found this particular one. You'll see the last few items that I had in here was some research that I was doing for some of my Adventist items. You'll see Ronald numbers in here, other things that are in here. But this one right here, the Battle for the Keys, is something that, again, I didn't have to pay anything. It's just access to that particular platform, and you can get access. So there's that. All right. So without too much further ado, I'm going to have a word of prayer, and then we are going to dive in because we have a lot to cover today. I would be surprised if we're going to be able to get through all of Revelation 9, but buckle up. We're going to try. We're going to work through it as fast as we can. Let's bow our heads in that prayer. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for this time. Thank you for these beautiful people currently watching live, as well as those that might be watching later on. I pray that you would bless them. May you bring peace in their lives, contentment in their lives. May the Holy Spirit fill them with the most amazing experience because of your presence. And may they, if they haven't already, accept you as their Savior as we go through this study. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for the beautiful good news of the gospel and what Christ Jesus has done on our behalf. We accept that, and we pray that this study would honor you in all that we do, say, and think. We pray all these things in your precious name. Amen. All right, friends, let's dive in. And you'll notice that on the corner, there are the comments that are actually on the screen themselves. I know they're small, but that is kind of something that hopefully those that watch it later will be able to see some of those comments as they scroll through. All right, let's kick it off. We are in Revelation chapter 9. I can't believe we are 31 episodes into this series. 31 episodes, and we are only in the beginning parts of chapter 9. If you remember last time, we kind of ended talking about some of the crazy interpretations that are out there. Even one that was, an example that I gave you with regards to the Adventist understanding of it. But there's a lot of crazy ideas. There's a lot of crazy things out there. And what might surprise some people is, and it shouldn't surprise those of you that have been here, okay? But what might surprise some people that have those ideas, the depth to which John pulls imagery, especially from Revelation chapter 9, that is embedded into his theology, into what it is that he is trying to reveal in the person of Jesus Christ. And so the task that we're going to take on, the mission, if you so accept, the mission that we are going to engage in is trying to uncover that imagery that is embedded in the Old Testament that John is utilizing in the way he's conveying this. And so we're going to kick it off with, we're going to first go to, let's see here. Hopefully that's easy enough for you all to see. I will kind of move the screen so that things are a little bit easier as we go about the conversation. But let's kick it off with the first verse. Let's begin with Revelation 9:1, and this is in the NRSV updated edition. It says, "And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the bottomless pit, the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. All right. So as we look at this, there's a couple of things that might actually seem pretty, that you might be familiar with it. I mean, most have an idea of what they think stars that are falling from heaven are. This is common language. I mean, this is the beginning of the fifth trumpet. Most will understand stars to be kind of angelic beings. That's what they've been taught. And so there tends to be two approaches to identifying the fallen star. Who is the fallen star? Okay. And I think this is going to be valuable to get into kind of what these lines of thinking are. Now, as we go through this, we are going to, as we usually do, we are going to traverse into Second Temple literature. If you're not familiar with what Second Temple literature is, it is sacred documents that were written in between what most people understand the Old Testament and the New Testament. I remember growing up in the Adventist church being told that was the time when God went silent. That's a misnomer. That's not really what happened. In fact, I don't really like that terminology at all. But this is the Second Temple period, during that time frame where we would consider kind of the gap in between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we're going to traverse into some of that. Now, some of this might be familiar from some of our previous kind of conversations with Second Temple literature with regards to fallen stars or celestial imagery. You may be familiar with some of this, but I want to zero in specifically on a couple of things that I think are relevant to the conversation. The first would be kind of the context of this star fallen, or this fallen star, okay, the star that has descended, okay. It seems quite obvious at first glance that this would be a supernatural being. That's a possibility, okay, and nobody really argues. There's not much argument about that aspect of it. But I want to point out that the points of controversy, when you look at the academic documents, scholars like to debate on three basic areas. They will converse around, the first area is is this being a good angel in God's service? So is it a supernatural being that's loyal to God? Okay. Or is it a fallen evil celestial being? Perhaps even maybe, as some would understand it, Satan himself. Now, I on the offset of this, I want to encourage you, as I tend to do often, I want you to hold your previous kind of conceptions of these passages that we're going through. I want you to hold them kind of with open hands as we go through some of this, and hopefully this will bring some clarity to some of the challenges, some of the difficulties, some of the things that we need to pay attention to as we go through it. All right, so that's the first thing that people converse around. The second one is this fallen star specifically with the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit? Is this the same angel as, and I'm going to bring this up here, is it the same angel as Revelation 20 verse 1? Okay, so this is 11 chapters later, but this is with reference to kind of the subheading here being the 1,000 years. And you'll see in the text, it says, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain." So the question here is, okay, is this angel in Revelation 9:1? Is it the same angel, or is it a different angel than the one we see later on in Revelation 20 verse 1? That's the second area that gets, kind of debated or dialogued on. The third area is if someone opts for the fallen star being evil. Okay, all the way back in Revelation 9:1. If this is an evil angelic being, is that fallen star the same being as Abaddon in Revelation 9 verse 11? So here we've got this, if you identify, if you interpret this star that's fallen as, well, because he's fallen, and we're going to get into the fallen idea in just a second, but if you say, okay, well, fallen means that you've been deceived, or you've stooped, or you've been kicked out, or if that's the direction you go, and then you claim that, this entity is evil, well, then when you get all the way down to verse 11, which we'll get to, it says they have as king over the angel of the bottomless pit. His name is in Hebrew Abaddon. So the third area of conversation is, well, is that the same? Like, is the fallen star that's evil, is that the same as the being described as Abaddon, or in Greek, who is called Apollyon? And we'll eventually get to, what those things could be and what might be. Now, I'm going to go through a couple of different approaches here so that you are, and again, this is, if you haven't been with us yet, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you've been here, you know that this is what we do. We lay out the different kind of things, the different items that get discussed, and I'm going to have a tendency, I might tell you what I conclude, but most importantly, I want you to have the tools to conclude what you think the most evidence for the conclusion might be, okay? All right, so we're going to first address David Aun in his commentary that we've seen a couple of times. Now, Aun is going to take the view that the fallen star in Revelation 9:1 is an angel, okay, but is not the angel of Revelation 9:11. It's not Abaddon, okay? So this celestial being in verse 1 is not the same as verse 11. And that this angel, okay, Alan argues, is a parallel to Revelation 20, specifically verse 1. So he's going to argue that this is a parallel for Revelation 21, which says, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a chain." Okay, so this is his approach. He's gonna, and we're gonna read a quote from him in just a second. But he's gonna say that if you look at Revelation 20 verse 1, it's so similar to chapter 9 verse 1, and it's pretty obvious in his perspective that this is a supernatural being or an angel. That's what the star represents. And he further is going to argue that the angel mentioned in 9:11, that other one, renames Abaddon. In other words, he is Abaddon. Okay. So the angel mentioned in 9:11 is specifically Abaddon. And the angel mentioned in 9:11 is not, chapter 9, verse 11, is not this very first angel in Revelation 9:1. So he's going to separate, so Revelation 9:1 parallel to Revelation 20, verse 1, but it is not the same entity as Revelation 9, verse 11. Okay. All right. Now let's read some of his quotes as we get into this. All right, so we're going to start here, right up here. So John does not say that he actually saw the star fall. He says only that he saw the star after it had fallen. In Revelation 9, like the second half of verse 1 and the first half of verse 2, it becomes obvious that the star is a supernatural being, an angel. In early Jewish literature, Stars can represent angelic beings. And then he's going to use, this is Judges 5:7. This is Old Testament, but then he's also going to give some additional references to Jewish literature that you can kind of work through. Let's keep rolling through on his dialogue. Falling stars often represent evil angelic beings or demons. And then again, quotes here, first Enoch. We're going to get into Enoch in a little bit. Testament of Solomon, and then Jude 13. Or even as Satan himself in these sections here. Here, the fallen star should be understood as an angelic messenger. Now, he kind of puts a reference to Revelation 20, verse 1, and not be identified with the angel of the abyss named Abaddon or Satan in chapter 12, verse 9. So that's kind of the synopsis that I had already kind of given you, okay? Now, if we keep kind of on the dialogue with his synopsis here, he says, though the star that had fallen from heaven mentioned in verse 1 must be understood as an angel, it should not be identified with this particular angel. This angel, meaning specifically when he's talking about that, he's going to be, well, we'll just keep reading. This angel is named only here in Revelation, meaning he's referencing Revelation 9, verse 11. You'll see that in the dialog box at the top. And elsewhere in the Old Testament and early Jewish literature is mentioned only in, now this reference right here, I don't know how familiar you all are with the Dead Sea Scrolls, but this is the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is fourth cave, that 4Q. It's fourth cave at Qumran, and then it's tagged as 280:10. And this is actually I believe this is the scroll that deals with Melchizedek in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I could be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. Okay. All right. So basically what he's saying here is that we only get the name Abaddon, the angel in Revelation 9:11, only in this verse and in some early Jewish literature, specifically this 4Q 280. Okay, that's the reference specifically that he's making. And let me just put that on the screen one more time, because while this is the Hebrew, and just so you know what's going on here, you'll see the brackets. Okay. If you look at the actual scroll, the brackets are areas where the scroll is deteriorated enough where we can't really get everything from it. So we end up kind of figuring out what it is by, research, and, this is what archaeological individuals do. So here we have curse be you, angel of the pit, and spirit of, and then we got Abaddon. Okay. So here is the transliteration of those down here. This is the actual text. We could go to the actual scroll. Here's the scroll itself. Okay, this is the Qumran scroll, 4Q curses, and then you can kind of see this working down here. This is actually 10. This is later on in the text here. But anyways, you get the idea of what's going on. Yeah, it's later on in the text. All right. So let's keep rolling on what he's saying here. While in 4Q 280 and related texts, these two titles are alternate ways of describing Belial. In Revelation, it is not at all clear that the angel of the abyss is a designation of Satan. I want you to catch that, okay? For he is carefully named elsewhere with a selection of aliases in two different contexts. This is Revelation 12:9 and Revelation 20, verse 2. And neither Abaddon nor the angel of the abyss is mentioned again. The fact that, and this is angelos, the fact that angelos is articular here however, suggests that the author expected the readers to be familiar with this figure, that the angel of the abyss is none other than Satan Belial. So he goes on in Martyrdom of Isaiah. It refers to the descent of Christ as far as the angel who is in Sheol, but you shall not go as far as perdition, the final place of punishment. Abaddon is a Hebrew term for the kingdom of the dead, and we can see that in cross references here, used as a poetic parallel to Sheol, death, the grave, and the abyss. And these are Qumran articles there. So there's a lot going on here, and I want to just pull back something that he mentioned. John is going to assume that you actually understand who this angel is. He assumes that you know who Abaddon is. He assumes that you know the connections. We as Western readers, or just modern readers, if you're not even in the United States per se, or in the Western region of the world, we as modern readers tend to not understand a lot of this context, and so we kind of err when it comes to understanding what's going on. So basically, what David Allen is saying, okay, is that Abaddon could be Satan. We don't know. But he's saying that Abaddon, the angel specifically in chapter 9, the angel who's called Abaddon specifically, is different. Chapter 9, verse 11, is different than the one at the very beginning of the chapter. Now, the key sentence in all of this, at least in Allen's thinking, to kind of parse this out, okay? The key sentence is this, it's based on Revelation chapter 2, verse 1. It's this, here the fallen star should be understood as an angelic messenger. That's something that David Allen kind of assumes, okay? Common knowledge. And so that's going to be based on kind of his understanding of Revelation chapter 2 or chapter 20, verse 1. And then he goes on and says, and it should not be identified as the angel of the abyss named Abaddon. Now, I take this as indicating basically David Allen sees, okay, this is my assumption of his interpretation, okay? It seems that you can conclude that David Allen understands that that this angel in Revelation 9, verse 1 is being indicated as a good angel, both in chapter 9, verse 1 and in chapter 20, verse 1, because of that parallel, okay? Now, good academic works will engage in someone else's kind of scholarly work, okay? So what you're going to find is you're going to find that there are others who are commenting on Allen's work. They will argue that David Allen still thinks that the angel of Revelation 9:1 is evil, even though it's not Abaddon. So it matters what you think about these angelic beings, okay? And other scholars are going to draw the conclusion that based on Allen's comments about falling star language being used in the evil, specifically for evil angels, okay, that's kind of why some of these scholars think that, well, David Allen concludes that the angel in chapter 9, verse 1 must be evil because of the fallen language. Now, personally, and there are others that would agree with me on this, Dr. Heiser would agree on this. Personally, I don't think that David Allen actually says that. I think that's an interpretation, and I'm going to pause for a second. I'm not the first person to be misunderstood. It happens a lot. I get comments on my YouTube channel. I get people claiming I believe certain things. I am certain things. I do certain things. It happens in the academic world as well. So it doesn't surprise me that maybe David Allen, maybe he got misunderstood in this area, but I don't see that David Allen in his language and his commentary, I don't think that he concludes that the the angelic being is evil. Okay. Now, here's why this matters, because some of you are like, man, Mike, it's we're like 30 minutes in, and why why does this matter? Well, I'm curious actually. I'm actually really curious if those of you that are watching live, if you would share on the live stream comments why you think it matters. Why does it matter to get these angels, these celestial beings, these supernatural entities in chapter 9, verse 1, verse 11, later on, chapter 12, chapter 20? Why is it important that we get these accurately right with regards to interpretation? So I'm just kind of curious what you all think on the live stream. Now, the advantage from an interpretation standpoint of having a good angel in both Revelation 9:1 and Revelation 20, verse 1, the advantage is consistency. Part of the way you would get there is if you have what's called a cyclic understanding of Revelation. So Revelation is understood in cycles that repeat themselves, and so Revelation 20 is really just one of those like repeats that parallels Revelation chapter 9. Okay. Now there's no indication. Let's go back to Revelation 20, verse 1. Okay. In Revelation 20, verse 1, there's no indication in the text. This angel in verse 1 here, the one who holds the key to the abyss, there's no indication that he's evil. The text and I want to be very careful as we go through this, because I have found myself inserting ideas onto the text that then gives me a conclusion that leads me in a direction. The text does not claim in verse 1, there's nothing in the text that claims that this angel that's holding the key to the bottomless pit is evil. There's nothing. Okay. If you pay close attention to verse 2, okay, this entity, it's very clear that it says he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil, and bound him. So if we're following textually, it seems like, it's clear that he binds, whoever this is, binds Satan, and that's really kind of his mission. That's what he's supposed to accomplish, okay? So if the angel, just follow the logic, if the angel of Revelation 9:1 is evil, while the one in 20 verse 1 is good, well, what you have is you have two different angels with the key to the abyss. Okay, let's go back real quick to Revelation 9 verse 1. Just for clarity on this, okay? For clarity, notice that here's the key to the bottomless pit. So whoever you identify, right? You've got to either say there's two pits, okay? Or this is the same angel that's dealing with the same bottomless pit, or you've got inconsistency and one's evil, one's good. Okay. So it's really important that we notice this. This is, again, this entity, he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. When you go to Revelation 2 verse 1, what do we have? He's holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit. So if that's the same pit, which I think textually you have to conclude that, if it's the same pit, then it's got to be whoever you identify it as in chapter 9 as good or evil. It has to be the same thing. Okay. And here's the problem. The problem arises that if it's, and this is where I was going, if it's evil in chapter 9, verse 1, if the entity is evil, well, then you've got an evil angel that's doing God's bidding, that's basically, binding the devil. And that doesn't make much sense. Okay. So we're slowly working through this. Okay. We're slowly working through this. Adrian, I appreciate your comment. Yes, it's important to get things correct, and a huge difference between good and evil. But chapter 9 appears to be doing God's bidding. Yes, I agree. Now, I will say, just to be pun intended here, to be the devil's advocate for a second, everyone does God's bidding, okay? Because God he's God, okay? So we do have evidence that demonic beings are doing the will of God. That's a whole nother conversation, okay? But there are plenty of examples of that in Scripture. So, anyways, just keeping things kind of real, keeping things exciting. All right, so if the angel of Revelation 9:1 was evil, if that's the case, while the one in chapter 21, verse 1 is good, then you've got two different angels. I mentioned that, okay? And that seems to make, to me, that seems like no sense. Okay, that you can't conclude that. Okay? And we're going to return to that thought later on, but just kind of put that back in the back of your mind. In my reading of David Aune and his scholarly work, okay, he seems to be saying that we have a good angel in both chapter 9, verse 1 and chapter 20, verse 1, and that angel, being the same entity, it's the same angelic being. Again, this is the approach. This is how you could understand based on kind of that conclusion. The same angel in chapter 9, verse 1, same angel in chapter 20, verse 1. And in fact, they're not only both good, it's the same angel. Okay. Now, this same angel, if you look textually, the same angel, if you do conclude that it's the same angel, the angel has two different missions. Okay. He's doing two different things. Okay. In Revelation 9, verse 1, if we look at that, in Revelation 9, verse 1, basically his mission is one of release. Okay. He ends up allowing the forces under the command of Abaddon, which is a different figure in verse 11. So his mission here is to release the angelic beings. When you get over to Revelation 20, verse 1, the same angel has a mission of kind of coming back to the abyss again and binding Satan, binding the devil. Okay, so one is of release, one is of binding. Now, Adrian, we are going to get to that. That is a great question. I absolutely love that you asked that, and I love where you're probably headed with that. We're going to actually work through that particular item if we have time today. And by the way, guys, I think this particular topic is one of the most exciting. It's not the most exciting, but I think it's an incredibly exciting topic with regards to Revelation. All right. So as far as an indication, as far as identifying, okay, this particular entity, more specifically this angel, the one that's in chapter 9 and chapter 20, the one who has the keys specifically. I think, okay, the best candidate, you guys ready for a drum roll? I think the best candidate, I saw some of you say Michael. I don't think that's the best candidate. The best candidate is Uriel. Now, Uriel, and that's Uriel, okay, Uriel is the archangel who specifically in First Enoch was actually called the chief over Tartarus. And Tartarus is going to be important to our New Testament understanding, okay? Now, Tartarus is a reference to the abyss. It's specifically a reference to the abyss where the watchers, this is Enochian theology, where the watchers are held. Okay, that's what's going on. And you get this specifically from, you can jot this down and look at it from 1 Enoch 19:1 and chapter 20, verse 1. Those are the locations where you're gonna get that. I wonder if I can pull that up real quick. 1 Enoch, here. Let me see, 19. I've got the commentary pulled up. Give me a second, guys. Guys and girls. Well, I thought I could pull it up quickly, but I don't have the direct reference here. Well, I'll show you this reference real quick. Okay. This is actually, this is a commentary. This is the Hermania commentary on 1 Enoch. This is actually chapter 20, and you're going to notice the list of angels here, the names of the 7 archangels, and they go through these. You'll notice Michael is in here, but Uriel, one of the holy angels who is in charge of the world, and Tartarus. Okay. I know that most people are familiar with Michael because of Michael's connection and Gabriel's connection inside of Old and New Testament. I actually think Uriel is probably a better candidate for keeping your line of theology with Second Temple literature with regards to a lot of this. Again, you determine what you think. Okay. There is another option. I think this is a weaker option, but there is another option, an angel by the name of Saraquel, Saraquael, which is actually another one of the kind of the Enochian angels, the angels that are in 1 Enoch, who is over the spirits, is the way Enoch describes it. Over the spirits who sin in the spirit is the way the description goes. And I don't think that that's a good candidate. I actually think that Uriel is a more textually grounded and consistent candidate because, remember, Uriel is in charge of the world and Tartarus. And Tartarus has a very deep connection to this pit language, okay, which bottomless pit, like that whole idea, okay? So that seems to, you're going to find this in Beale's work as well. So Beale kind of objects to both of these. He talks about some of these. So Beale isn't going to necessarily agree on this. And that's okay. Again, some of this is kind of figuring out what makes the most sense. But both of these, Uriel and Saraquel, he is going to opt for a different direction. Okay. And the reason why that Beale is going to go a different, G.K. Beale is going to go a different direction is because he says that 1 Enoch never calls either of these particular candidates as a fallen star. He claims that it's reserved language for evil fallen angels. And so you can see why this becomes important, because if you place Revelation 9:1, if you place the candidate as a good candidate, a good angel candidate, and then you claim that, well, the fallen language can only be applied to evil, now you've got kind of a, I don't know what to do with that. And so that's the reason why Beale has a tendency, okay, he's going to reject the idea completely that the angel of Revelation 9:1 is a good angel. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the second view as we go through this. All right, fun stuff so far. So if you're going to see the angel, if you're going to see the angel in Revelation 9:1 as an evil angel, That's going to take you down a different direction. And this is where Beale actually goes. So you got David Allen kind of dealing with it being a good angel. Beale is going to disagree, and he's going to go down a different angle, that it is an evil angel. And this is in the commentary. I think actually Chris mentioned that she picked that commentary up. It's an excellent commentary, one of the best ones. I would pick that up. I'd pick David Allen up. There are others that I've referenced that are just solid work. So in his commentary, Beale discusses the issue of good and bad star entities. And honestly, I think he gets kind of, this is me picking on Beale just a little bit, okay? I think in this particular area, he kind of gets in his own way. But let's see what he says. Let's see what the text says. Yes, it is absolutely, Chris. It is a thick and deep book, and it is filled with all kinds of knowledge. It is an excellent resource for probably, I would argue, one of the best, okay, for his work in specifically apocalyptic literature. All right, so let's dive in here. Let me throw this on the screen. And here is what Beale brings up. This image has been given various identifications. The main debate is whether this is a good or evil being. It could be either the angel, here we go, Uriel, who was chief over Tartarus, or the archangel Seraquel. Those two are the ones that I mentioned, who was, quote, kind of over the spirits, okay? And we've got references here. If we wanted to go take a look at it, we've got references here. I should have just known that, and we would have gone to it later on. But first Enoch never calls those figures fallen stars. Instead, this description is reserved exclusively for fallen angels under the confinement of archangels. The star should be rather be interpreted in the same way as the star in Revelation 8:10, because of the parallel wording, a star fell from heaven. All right, so that's kind of Beale's short synopsis. That's his. You're going to already know kind of where he's headed. So, and yeah, I'm going to put this up. Normally, I don't engage too much on the Adventist side with this, but you're spot on, 100% accurate with this. So much of Adventism's Michael is Jesus and therefore the only archangel. Even though Ellen said Lucifer was also an archangel. So yes, there is. Listen, guys, I've been in academic discussions at SBL, Society of Biblical Literature, where Adventist scholars dialogue on their views about Michael. It's like Swiss cheese. There's holes all over in it. And if I'm being very, very transparent, it's because inside of the Adventist realm, inside of the Adventist theology, you cannot be a thinker. You have to kind of be inside the box. You can't think outside the box, because if you do, you're going to end up kind of rubbing against what Ellen White said, against what some of the others, specifically Ellen White, to be very specific, because if it disagrees with Ellen White, we all know this, even though Adventists don't like to state it. If it disagrees with Ellen White, it's off limits, period. You cannot disagree with her. And so because of that, and because as Schley actually said, because of that, she specifically uses these terms in specific ways. And so therefore they have to work their kind of academic understanding into the Ellen White box. That's just the way it is. Okay. And I know that certain apologists, Adventist apologists, don't like to recognize that. That is the unfortunate reality. Okay, as an academic, you in the Adventist sphere, you have to think in the framework of Ellen White. You cannot disagree with her and still remain in Adventist in good standing. That's just, and I always tell people, if you want to test that theory, just disagree with her publicly in a public forum with lots of people, and see what happens to your credentials and see what happens to you as a pastor or as a, head elder or as a whatever. And that kind of says what it says. All right. So enough about that. We'll go back into now. Let's go to, I want to go actually to what Beale uses his argument. He's going to look at Revelation 8:10 as a means by which to justify his logic. Okay. Revelation 8:10, which, let me make this a little bigger, since the third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. So this is what he's going to use as a line of argument for what he's kind of getting to. So he's basically, to summarize it, he's interpreting it as an evil entity because of the fall language. Okay. All right, so we have to ask, as we're dialoguing with this, we have to ask ourselves in relation to this verse, Revelation 8:10. Okay, we have to ask, why would an evil angel fall from heaven? It's a valid argument. Why would an evil? It's a valid question, I should say. If this is an evil angel, why would an evil angel fall? Why would that be a classification because they're falling? Why would they be considered evil? Is it because, did they fall from grace? What specifically does this fall language actually mean? And why would he do it when another angel blows the trumpet? Third angel blew the trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven. So again, just we got to use our brains when we're thinking about this stuff, okay? Because it sounds like, if you're paying attention, it sounds like if this fallen star, this wormwood, the name of the star is wormwood, okay? If it is a celestial being, and it's, again, not a asteroid or something, some of those crazy things that are out there. My question is this: why is he, again, assuming he's evil, why is he obeying the trumpet call of another angel if he's evil? You follow the line of logic there? Why is he being obedient if this is a... Okay, that makes sense? All right. So the question would be, why can't this be an obedient angel wrecking chaos in judgment? Just like angels, as we've already read, angels that wreak havoc, the plagues back in Egypt, Psalm 78, 49, 50. If there is truly a parallel with Exodus material, which we've already dialogued on, then why can't the parallel encompass that particular point as well? What I'm trying to get at here is why can't the parallel encompass the character, the nature of the angel? If we go back to Egypt, for example, there was a whole company of angels. And this is in reference to, if you go back to Psalm 78, and you read through Psalm 78, he established the decree which he commanded our ancestors. Okay, and you just kind of read through here. Keep his commandments. They shall not be like their ancestors, a stubborn, rebellious, a generation whose heart was steadfast. Euphrates, armed with the bow and you get all the way down to the bottom here. In the sight of their ancestors, he worked marvels in the land of Egypt. He divided the sea, let them pass through in the daytime. He split the rock. He made streams, yet they sinned still. They tested God. They spoke against God, even though he struck the rock. If you continue to work through this, yet he commanded the skies above and opened the doors of heaven. He rained down on them manna to eat. Mortals ate the bread. He caused the east wind to blow. He rained flesh upon them like dust, winged birds like the sand of the sea. He let them fall within their camp, all around their dwellings, speaking of the quail. And if you keep moving through here, when he killed them, they searched for him. They repented and sought God. Their heart was not steadfast toward him, yet he, being compassionate, forgave their iniquity and did not destroy them. If you work through this whole passage here, okay, he displayed his signs. He turned the rivers, speaking of God, right? He worked through all this stuff. But notice, this is where I was getting to as we're going through this. He let loose his fierce anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, a company of destroying angels. Those aren't evil angels. I mean, those are angels listening to God. We oftentimes I think we've misunderstood oftentimes that if angels are destroying something, they're evil. I don't know. That's not the case. Okay. The destroying angel killed the babies in Egypt, and it was not an evil angel. So again, just be thinking about this. If the plagues are the clear parallel, if you're drawing the parallels of the plagues to the trumpets, okay, and that's what John is doing, including the one all the way back in chapter 8 of Revelation, why can't we conclude that this entity, as we get into Revelation 9, why can't we conclude that the entity is a good guy? I mean, why would we have to conclude it's a bad guy? Now, Beale answers, he's going to answer kind of where his direction is, okay? And his direction is, well, he's called fallen. Now, again, the argument extends from this one word. Now, this is where I kind of pick on Beale just a little bit, okay? Because if your argument is on one word and you got that word wrong, well, the whole thing is wrong, okay? Even though the parallel in this characterization doesn't call for that particular characterization of angels involved all the way back in Exodus, okay? He concludes this on this one word. But I want you to know where he gets it from, why he gets it from that, okay? Now, let's go back to some other problems. And again, sorry, not sorry if I don't just tell you exactly what I think. I want you guys to think about this and conclude on your own, okay? But if we go back to some of the other problems, if the angel of Revelation 9 verse 1 is evil because of this fallen language, let's go back here and just, okay, if we conclude that, well, the fifth angel blew his trumpet and I saw a star that had fallen, and because the fallen language, that's going to tell me it's evil, okay? The problem here is that when you get to Revelation 20 verse 1, is this one fallen? No, there's a different conclusion. There's different language that comes in, okay? So the specific word fallen here in Revelation 20 verse 1 is absent. But yet they both have the keys to the abyss. So if they're two different angels, okay, again, well, that one's a good guy because of John doesn't use the fallen, just like Beale is saying. Now we wind up with the situation where we have two angels and both of them have a key to the pit. So the question is are there two keys Maybe there are. Maybe there's two keys. Maybe that's what's going on. Okay. Or do we have angels? do we have angels like handing off the key? It's like a hall pass, like it's a football move that they're handing off. They're passing the baton. Now, if the first angel is evil, if this first angel is evil, why does he respond to the trumpet call? Why would he obey God's judgment call? Now, you could argue that, well, he has to. Okay. But if you're an angel in rebellion, okay, why are they obeying now? I mean, if you follow the line of logic, like Satan is clearly a rebellious, okay, the devil is a rebellious angel. Do you obey God? Just think about it, okay? So to me, following as I'm working through Beale's logic on this exact area, okay, I don't think his argument makes the most sense, okay? And he doesn't really address this particular question either. So it doesn't mean that Beale can't be right on this. I just want you all to know that I'm a little bit skeptical of his skepticism on this particular point of how he addresses this. Okay, there's really no problem with having a good angel release the watchers, for example. And again, I think that if we're going to this text here, okay, these entities, we'll get to this eventually, but these entities that get released, the entities in verse 9 here that get released, I think that these would be connected to, and we'll get into this and why I think this. These are going to be connected to the watchers in Enochian theology. Okay, so it's part of this like end of the age, day of judgment. This isn't like a jailbreak where they somehow like got out accidentally. Okay, they're ultimately being released to their own doom is what's going on. So this is, in my opinion, this is a sequence of events that is going to initiate what's called the day of the Lord. It's going to initiate the end times judgment that goes on. Okay. Now, we've got enough time. We're going to get to Justin Bass. Okay. Because he chimes in. This is his gig. This is down his alley. And so I'm going to get this pulled up on the share screen because it's a little bit of a different share screen here. So let me do that real quick before we jump in. Let's see. I think that's the one. All right. So all right, so we're going to get into Justin. Why is his? Let me hang on one second. Let me get to the exact location. Where is his? All right, I'm going to have to actually find this passage real quick. Let me throw this on the stage so that you guys kind of can see what I'm doing. But I need to find, in reference to evil agents. Let me see if I can find this real quick. And again, this is, I think it was Chris that mentioned, well, I'm not sure why occurs, 21 times. There we go. Good. Okay, I've got it. I think it was Chris that mentioned that you can pick this book up. This is his dissertation on Amazon if you really want to read through. It's, I don't know how many, the digital version is about 353 pages. I don't know what that equates to in the paperback version, but this is his book on the keys of death and Hades. It's not specifically about these passages, okay? But he does say a few things in passing that I think are relevant, okay? I wish, it doesn't really resolve the issue. I wish it did. But he's going to write that basically that the verb about the key, that the key is given. It's a passive reference. And he writes that the verb here is in reference to the angel of 9/11. Now, he's referencing, this is a footnote in reference, in passing, and he says this. Let me make this a little bit bigger for the audience. Oh, you're not able to see this. I'm going to share this tab so y'all can see it. I wonder why y'all weren't able to see it. All right, so this is a reference to a footnote, and he says that this verb, okay, is given. It occurs 21 times in Revelation and is used twice as much in reference to evil angels than in reference to good angels or good agents. Okay, so evil agents, he gives the references here: Revelation 6:2, 4, 8, 9, 1. There he goes. Like, that's his passing statement. He thinks it's evil. And then good agents, he's going to reference some of these others items. Okay, so he lists these verses where it's good guy, and then he lists these as bad guy. That's kind of what's going on. Now, the flaw here is that the fact that the verb form under discussion is in fact used of good agents. So it's used for good guys as well as bad guys. Okay. So that in and of itself is going to undermine the verb form as a criterion for determining the angel itself in Revelation 9:1, that it's evil. Like, just because, and here's what I mean by that. The verb form is used for both. So the verb form by itself does not give you the indication of whether or not it's good or evil. Okay. So the exegetical answer to this question can't be determined. You can't say, like, well, because it's used more for evil, therefore it has to be evil. That's not an exegetically sound. You can't argue that by a numerical count. Okay, that's not how exegesis works. You don't do numerical counts to determine whether or not, well, it uses it 20 times this way and 5 the other way. And so therefore, because it uses it more often 20 times, therefore we can conclude that that's a fallacy in exegetical arguments. Okay. And so Bass isn't really arguing that, just to let you know. Again, Bass isn't arguing that. So we can't really, he's just making an observation is what he's making. Okay, so he's not making the argument that because of the verbal form, it gives you good or bad. There's also another logical flaw in having there's another logical flaw in having the angel in Revelation 9:1 be evil. And this would be kind of revealed by understanding what the abyss is. Okay. And we're going to get to this particular flaw in possibly by the end of today. Okay. But I want to talk about the abyss for just a second. Let me get my share screen back up with the right items here, and then we'll fire away on this. So the English phrase, if we go to let's get this on the screen here. So if we go here to this is Revelation 20 verse 1, you can get this where is the bottomless pit? Okay. This phrase itself, it's rendered in, well, let me just show you, okay? And I may have to reduce the size of this so that you can see it properly. So if you look at bottomless pit, it's rendered right down here as abussos, okay, which is abyss. Okay. The same is true. In fact, if we just do a search real quick for, let's just do an inline search for this. I'll bring this over to the screen, and I want to actually isolate this to Revelation, so that we can kind of pay attention. You'll notice that in Revelation, this is abussos. You find it in Revelation 9:1, verse 2, verse 11, 11:7, 17:8, 20 verse 1, and 20 verse 3. Now, understand that in the original language, the actual word, the Greek word is abyss, okay? But it gets rendered, depending on which translation you use, it gets rendered bottomless pit, okay? But just understand that the underlying Greek is this this term here, that is, it's ho, which is the article, okay? Ho abyssos. So it's the abyss is what it is, if you were to literally translate the language, okay? Now, in Revelation 21-3, and these are highlighted because I've got this search already activated, and so Logos is being super kind to me and telling me that these two items right here are abussos and the same down here. It's the same language. Okay. Now, Revelation 21-3 has as you've seen, has the identical terms as being a place. Let me put it on the screen again. This is clearly a place where Satan dwells. Yeah, that's not difficult to understand. So it can be understood as a, I'll just say it this way. It can be a partial synonym for Hades. And I say partial, okay? There's a reason I say partial there. It's hard to know how much it overlaps in the textual analysis of Scripture, okay? It's hard to know where all of this overlaps, but it does overlaps at least some. So that's why I say it's a partial synonym for Hades, which is the place. It's a physical place. It's not the personified being that we talked about several times back. We've probably discussed this personified being. This is a physical place. Okay, so it can be understood textually as the abyss, the bottomless pit, is the realm of the dead. Now, there's a quote here that I just want to go through. This is actually David Aune. This quote, I think, is a nice quote to kind of move to. Okay, this is what he's going to write. He says, in Revelation, the beast ascends from the abyss, that would be the bottomless pit, and it is also the abode of Satan, of the angel of the abyss, Abaddon or Apollyon, and the demons. Okay, so again, this clearly, when we get to this bottomless pit abyss, the Greek abyssos, the abyss thing sounds very synonymous, or at least partially synonymous, with Hades in the Old Testament, which would be the realm of the dead, which is where Satan lives and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. Okay. Now, there's a reason why I said partial. Okay, there's a reason why I said partial, and that's because in First Enoch chapter 10, I wish I had. Let me see if I've got this. Well, we'll get to it. I'll just kind of reference it and then we'll go through. So in First Enoch chapter 10, 12 to 13. Now, I know some people that might watch this later, or, if you've been taught that, oh, you shouldn't read Enochian literature, you shouldn't read pseudepigrapha, you shouldn't read, if you've been taught, well, if it's not canonical, I can't read it. Well, I'm just going to be very frank. That's not very smart. Okay. You don't use the same logic. Okay. It doesn't have to be canon to be useful. You don't use the same logic going to the library. You don't approach the library and go, oh, well, this book isn't in the canon, so I can't read it. Okay. So it doesn't have to be canon to be useful. It can help inform what they might have been thinking of, what was kind of going on during that time period, the ideas that were circulating because it was being written about. Okay. All right. So this term abyss, this Greek term abyss, it's the same term in the Greek text in Enoch. This is the place where the offending, if you don't know much about the first, second, third Enoch, but this particular place that gets discussed is the place where offending watchers, or what's called, and again, I haven't done a deep dive with pretty much anyone on my channel, but it is the place where these entities in Genesis 6, 1 to 4, okay, whether or not this feels good or not, okay, but this is the place where in Enoch, these sons of God are imprisoned for 70 generations. That's what it describes, okay? And so the partially synonymous relationship between the abyss and the realm of the dead it's indicated by the fact that some members of the abyss are actually imprisoned and they're unable to leave. In fact, they cannot leave at all. In fact, my current stance on this is that the sons of God that we read about in Genesis 6, 1 to 4, have been completely imprisoned, are not allowed to leave, until, and it makes sense kind of when we get to Revelation, they are now released, okay, from this imprisonment, okay. Now, just remember that the watchers from Genesis 6, the sons of God that have been imprisoned in the Enochian literature, okay, those eventually, those cannot be released. They're locked. Their fate is sealed, so to speak. They've done so much. This is the theological idea. They have done so much horrendous acts that they don't deserve to be out and about doing their stuff. Okay. Whereas the Satans and demons that we kind of get referenced to elsewhere, they're not imprisoned. Okay. So there can't be, and this is why I say there can't be a complete overlap, because that you can't take the abyss as being all of the realm of the dead. I almost think of the abyss. The abyss is almost like the solitary confinement, of, a space of where, the rebellious angelic beings, supernatural beings, kind of exist. So it's better to view the abyss as some sort of compartment or a subset or a neighborhood of, if you kind of think of it that way, a subset location of the realm of the dead. Now, Enoch, in the book of Enoch, in that literature, Enoch actually visits the abyss. If you want to read this, this is in we may get to this, but this is in 1 Enoch 21, 7-10. In fact, I am going to read this in just a second to kind of give you kind of a flavor of how Jews would have thought of the abyss. Okay, this is why I'm getting into Second Temple literature. I think if we miss this, we're going to miss some of the language and terminology. Again, this shouldn't be a surprise. If you've paid attention, if you're familiar with Enochian material before, but let's see what we get here. And this is from, let's see, 21 verse. Let's get here to verse 7. Okay, now this is 1 Enoch 21. Let me make this a little bigger for you all. Let's see. Here we go. So this is Enoch is narrating in this text, and he says this: "From there I traveled to another place more terrible than this one, and I saw terrible things, a great fire burning and flaming there, and the place had a narrow cleft, kind of extending to the abyss, full of great pillars of fire borne downward. Neither the measure nor the size was I able to see or to estimate. Then I said," this is Enoch speaking, okay, "how terrible is this place and fearful to behold." Verse 9, "Then Uriel answered me, one of the holy angels who was with me." Now remember, Uriel was one of the supervising he's the one supervising this place. So then Uriel answered me, one of the holy angels who was with me, and said to me, "Enoch, why are you frightened so and shaken?" And I replied, "Because of this terrible place and because of the fearful sight." And he said, "This place is a prison for the angels." Now, specifically, this is going to be a reference to the watchers in context, okay? "Here they will be confined forever." Now, you probably know that the forever language, I hope by now that you understand that the forever language here and many other places, it does not mean infinite time. In fact, in the Hebrew language, the Hebrew specific language, there is no Hebrew word that would give the idea of infinite time, like never ending, doesn't ever come to a conclusion. Okay. So this particular reference to forever is really an extended, a very long time period, is what that context is meaning in context of the Hebrew language. And we know this because elsewhere in Enoch, if we continue to read in Enoch, it's actually going to tell you that time period, that forever time period, is actually given a 70 generations statement. It also says unto the time of the end. It gives this language that even though here in Enoch chapter 20, 1 Enoch chapter 21, we get this reference to forever, later we get the reference that it means a very specific amount of time. It's just a very long time period. Okay. Now, these are actually, if you look at 70 generations unto the time of the end, those types of phrases, those phrases are used of this specific place and their punishment. Okay. As a side note, I just want to say this as a side note. we actually can see that pretty easily here that we should, and I say pretty easily, we should more than likely conclude that there's a good probable chance, okay, that we should conclude that the Bible speaks when we have this forever language, okay, that the Bible speaks of this with regards to the burning fires of hell. So this abyss language is the chief parallel to the lake of fire that's alluded to in Revelation 20, verse 10, as well as, let me just get this on the screen. So Revelation 20, verse 10, everything we just looked at in Enoch, and some of the stuff we've been talking about with regards to the abyss, we get this reference to the lake of fire, okay, here in Revelation 20:10, but also Matthew 25:41. We get this language here where they're accursed and depart from me into the eternal fire. This is this forever language. I'm just going to say this, okay? This is the place of final judgment. You don't have to take this language to mean that they're burning incessantly forever, okay? You don't have to take it that way. Just understand that it can mean a long period of time. Just understand, I'm not getting into the weeds on this per se, okay? But I just want you to understand that this is probably a reference to the lake of fire, hell. It's the place where the demonic entities abide. That's where it is, okay? So this overlap that we have, it points to, specifically with regards to Beel, okay, because this is where we got to. It points to an incongruence, in my opinion, with Beel's notion that the angel of Revelation 9:1 is evil. Now, in our concluding time here, because we're not going to get through the entirety, as you already can see, of Revelation 9. We're going to probably do a part 2 and a part 3 on Revelation 9. But if we look up all the phrases, let's go to, if you look up all the phrases for death and Hades, if you remember when we started this entire journey in Revelation early on, okay, early on, because this is Revelation 1:18, okay, back when we had our first couple of episodes, which is a long time ago. We did an entire deep dive. In fact, you might want to go back and watch that one. We did a deep dive into this connection between the keys of death and Hades. Now, if you remember, and you may not, you should probably go back and watch it. If you recall, we actually talked about the keys of death and Hades and that Jesus took them. Okay. So we discussed this exact topic a long time ago. And I would challenge you to go back and rewatch that one. He took, I'll give you kind of a synopsis. Okay. So we talked about Jesus. He took the keys of death and Hades from this personified entity called death and Hades. Okay. Hades wasn't just a place. We worked through that. It can be a place, but it's not always used as a place. And that these places have a personification of an evil supernatural being called death and Hades. And so Christ, Jesus is going to take the keys from them, from death and Hades. It's figurative language. And that Jesus, because he takes the keys from them, he now is the master of life and death. He has the keys. And this is, when you understand the connection here, I get choked up thinking about this. This is tied directly into the gospel message. Okay. He goes down into Sheol. He goes down into the grave, and he rises from that victorious. He has the keys of death and Hades. He's taken it from the entities that had it before. Now, here's the point as we finish out. Okay. And this is the case. This is scripturally grounded. Okay. Yes, Schley, the harrowing of Hades. Yes, absolutely. Okay. This is the key here. It makes zero sense for Jesus to hand the key back to an evil agent in Revelation 9:1 or anywhere else. It makes absolutely no sense for Jesus to have the keys because of his victorious, the harrowing of Hades, because he has the keys. It makes no sense for him to now hand it over to an evil being. This is the reason why I'm not persuaded by Beale's position. Regardless of the fallen language, I'm just not. Okay, we're going to go through the fallen stuff later on, and we'll have a way of kind of understanding that. I think that he just gets too focused on this one adjective. That's what I think. It's sometimes that happens. That's happens to all of us. Okay, it's just not considering the wider context. And I don't speak too negatively too often about Beale, but we're okay with critiquing people here. Okay, it just makes no sense in my opinion. Because not only would you have Jesus giving the keys back, I don't know why he'd do that, but it destroys the imagery and the theology of what this means. It kind of cuts the true imagery of this whole process. Okay. The other thing to think about is that you also now have either a situation where you have two evil angels having the keys, or there is a good one and a bad one. They both have these keys. It just doesn't fit for me. Okay. It just doesn't make sense. Okay. So if the angel is loyal to God and loyal to the risen Christ, the Messiah, then you could see it makes sense to hand a key to the angel and say, go unlock the abyss. Go do this now because I have the authority and you have the authority in my command. So that's kind of, we're going to pause there. I know we're a couple minutes over the hour and a half mark. But we're going to pick it up next time. If everything goes well, we'll pick it up next week. We should be good with next week. But friends, we are just getting started on this. And we've got a lot of content to go through in chapter 9. I love this. If you want to keep doing a deep dive, okay? If you want to keep doing a deep dive on this, I would definitely encourage you to pick up Justin Bass, his book on, what was the actual title? The Battle for the Keys. That's going to give you a real good connection to this last part that we worked through. As always, I will mention this just as we exit out. I didn't do it in the beginning, but if you have any reason at all or need anything at all from me or from the community of people that we've got on the Discord channel, scan this code. Many of you, I think, are in Discord. If you're not in that app with us, I would really encourage you to jump in. We welcome anyone from all walks of life, from all different denominations. You're welcome to kind of engage and dissect what we dig into. In that Discord app, those of you that are wanting to, I launch every Friday morning. I have a Bible study that functions inside that particular app. So it'll be an easy plug for that. We do fun things like, I'll occasionally jump in the lounge. We've been talking about doing some fantasy football stuff. Like, guys, we have a good time. Okay. So please scan the code. Please join the Discord channel. The last thing I will mention, by the way, if you appreciate what it is that I'm doing on this channel, a couple of things. I would really love for you to just pray for the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on the ministry. Okay. We don't just focus on, Adventist things on the Thinking Cup. We do deep study. Many of you are familiar now that I have started my 4 to 6 year journey in my master's program with DTS. That program is a 120-hour master's program. That is the heaviest master's program that they have. It's like double most master's programs. It's called the mini PhD. I'm excited. I'm starting my classes this semester. If you want access to some of the things that I'm going to be kind of working through as I go through my master's, I would just ask you to check out the Patreon page. You can subscribe to the membership there. That membership, first of all, I would appreciate the financial help. That would be great. That's not why I'm asking for it, but it will also give you access to a private Discord channel that will be the primary place that I give additional papers that I'm writing for my master's program, additional resources, additional stuff. I want to make that's really the big. If you look at Patreon, that's the big plus to being a part of that. Now, I will mention that all of the contributions, if you're willing and you want to help financially, I would be honored that you would do that. Just know that all of the contributions that come in, whether it's through the website or whether it's through the Patreon account, all of those go to two things. They go to either support the website and the expenses of the website, the hosting, the live stream, all the stuff. It's actually more expensive than you realize. But secondly, it goes to help support my master's program, okay? My academic career. I would be honored for you to partner. If you scroll all the way over to the right on the membership on the Patreon account, which I'll put up again, you'll see an academic level one. If you want to support me at that level, I'd be honored. It is not cheap, okay? I'm not going to share the details of it. I know that God will provide a way. He always does. And so just think, pray, contemplate on it. Several of you have already given. I am grateful. I am so honored that you would partner with me in that. Do not feel obligated. I will be putting all this information out without any of the contributions. I'm doing it anyways because I feel this is a calling that God has put on my heart. I'm here because of what He has done. He has done for me, and so I'm honored to be able to provide that. All right, friends. With that, I guess I'm almost out of coffee. I guess that's a good thing for 6:45 almost. But I appreciate the time. Wow, Strange Skies, awesome stuff. Man, huge shout out to you. I stepped down today from my position at my church a couple of hours ago. Hey, if you're not already in the Discord channel, man, I'd love to connect with you. If there's any way that we can support you, that is a community of like 80 some people, 84 people, I think at this point in that group. And we are here to support. Oftentimes when people step away, doesn't matter if it's from the Adventist framework or from any kind of existing framework, there seems to be a little bit of a gap or a hole that's created. And so we would love to support you. We'd love to be able to help kind of wrap our arms around you. Awesome stuff. Oh, good. Awesome. He's on Discord. Good deal. Awesome stuff. Reach out. Let us know if there's anything we can do. Guys, with that, I am going to bail on you. Thank you for spending time. Do me a favor, hit the like button, share it with someone else. Looking forward to seeing you the next time. And as a side note, as I exit out, next week will be the next episode of episode 6 of the Ellen White series. So I will tell you that of all of the episodes that we've done so far, this one could be probably the craziest one so far. Got some crazy stuff in there. So guys, be blessed. Thank you so much for the time. We'll see you on the next one, and keep it real. Keep in the Word of God. We'll see you next time. Okay.